Welcome to the Explainer. When you look at an engagement ring, it's easy to just see a beautiful object, but it's so much more than that. It's a tiny, wearable marvel of engineering, science, and art. And today, we're going to take it apart, piece by piece. So let's start with a question that, honestly, even people in the jewelry industry sometimes mix up. By the time we're done here, you'll not only know the answer, but you'll be able to talk about a ring's anatomy like a total pro. Okay, so at its very core, every single ring is really a marriage of two key elements. You've got the mounting, that's all the metal work, and then you've got the gemstone, the star of the show. We're going to dive deep into both of them, one at a time. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to learn the language of the ring, the key parts. Then we'll see how that metal foundation is actually created. After that, we'll get into the magic behind a gemstone's sparkle, see how the stone is set, and finally look at those finishing touches that make a ring a true masterpiece. So before we can really start building, we need to get the lingo down. These are the essential parts that give a ring its structure and, really, its whole personality. Think of these 5 parts like the architectural blueprint of the ring. The shank, that's the main band that goes around your finger. The head is the basket that holds that precious center stone. The shoulders are what connect the two. The bridge provides support from underneath, right on your finger. And the gallery, well, that's where jewelers can get really creative with hidden details. Every single part has a job to do in how the ring looks, feels, and lasts. Okay, now that we've got the blueprint, let's talk about the actual building materials. We're starting with the metal. And this choice is about so much more than just color. It's about engineering a foundation that's going to last a lifetime. So here's something you might not know. Pure gold, it's actually way too soft for most jewelry. It's incredibly malleable, which means it bends and scratches super easily. To make it tough enough for everyday wear, jewelers have to create alloys by mixing it with stronger metals like copper or nickel. And that's how we get 14 karat or 18 karat gold. When you look at this, you can really see the trade-offs between the two heavy hitters, platinum and gold. Platinum is the heavyweight champ. It's incredibly dense, durable, and naturally white. Over time, it gets this really beautiful satin finish called a patina. White gold, on the other hand, is lighter and gets its bright white shine from a special plating, a rhodium. The only catch is that plating wears off, so it needs to be redone every few years. It really just comes down to what you prefer in terms of feel, maintenance, and how you want the metal to age. All right, let's talk about the main event, the gemstone. And trust me, it is not just a pretty rock. It is a masterpiece of optical engineering. Every single one of those tiny polished surfaces, we call them facets, is cut at a super precise angle to catch light, bend it, and shoot it back out in this incredible display of fire and sparkle. Now, this is a really important distinction that gets a lot of people confused. Shape is just the outline of the stone. Is it round, oval, or pear-shaped? Cut, on the other hand, is all about the science and the craftsmanship. It's about how well those facets are arranged to play with light. A great cut can literally make a diamond look bigger and way more brilliant. The journey of light starts right here, at the table. This is that big, flat facet on top. You can think of it like a giant window that just lets light flood right into the stone. As soon as the light gets in through that table, the crown takes over. These smaller facets on the top part of the stone acts like tiny prisms, and they split the light into a rainbow of colors. In the jewelry world, we call this fire. The girdle is basically the waist of the gemstone, and it's got 2 super important jobs. First, it defines the stone's outline, but more importantly, it's the edge that the metal prongs are going to grab onto to hold that stone securely in place. Now, this is where the real magic happens. The pavilion, the bottom part of the stone, it acts like a hall of mirrors. Its facets are angled just perfectly to bounce light back up and out through the top, creating that brilliant sparkle that makes a diamond so mesmerizing. And at the very bottom tip of the stone is the culet. Now, you might think a sharp point would be best, but that would actually be really easy to break. This tiny flat facet is a clever bit of engineering that protects the stone from chipping. So, we have our expertly crafted mounting and our perfectly engineered gemstone. Now, it's time to bring them together. This is where the art of setting comes in, that delicate, crucial process of securing the gem into the ring. Here we've got a classic showdown, sparkle versus security. The prong setting uses these tiny metal claws to hold the stone, which lets in the most light for maximum brilliance. The bezel setting, on the other hand, wraps the stone in a protective metal frame. It is the most secure option out there, absolutely perfect for someone who's active and always on the go. And the creativity doesn't stop there. I mean, the tension setting is this amazing feat of engineering that uses pure pressure to make the stone look like it's just floating in midair. It's incredible. And then you have the pavé setting, which means paved in French, and it creates this stunning, continuous surface of sparkle with dozens of tiny diamonds. The stone is set, but we are not done yet. These final touches, this is what turns a beautiful ring into a true masterpiece. It's all about adding that artistic flair and some really important practical details. First, the jeweler might add decorative details, like the tiny beaded edge of millgrain. Next up is the hallmark. That's a tiny stamp inside the ring that guarantees the metal's purity. And finally, a really thoughtful touch, a smooth area at the bottom of the ring, which makes it much easier to resize in the future. And that brings us all the way back to our original question. So, what is the difference between a shank and a band? Well, it's pretty simple, really. A shank is a part of a ring. It's waiting for a head to be attached to it. A band is a complete ring, all on its own, like a simple wedding band. The real takeaway here is that nothing in a well-made ring is an accident. Every single detail, from the alloy of the metal to the precise angle of a tiny facet to the style of the setting, is a deliberate decision that shapes the ring's final story. So now that you've seen this incredible blend of science and artistry that goes into making a single ring, I've got a question for you. Which element do you think is the most important? Is it the solid feel of the metal, the brilliant sparkle of the cut, or the unique style of the setting? Definitely something to think about. And that's our deep dive into the anatomy of a ring. Thanks so much for joining us on The Explainer.